I learned a practice called sky breath meditation. And I remember the instructor saying, practice this for 40 days and then you'll see whether it works for you. And I thought, I'm a scientist. I was like, I'm going to practice it because I don't think this is going to do anything.
Yeah.
And I was probably the only one in my class who actually did practice it for 40 days. And now look, 20 something years later, I'm still practicing every day. It gave me back my sovereignty in that I was able to sleep again. I was able to move forward with my life successfully.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jodi Richardson, and this is Well, Hello, Anxiety. In a world that often moves too fast, we're here to pause, breathe, and understand anxiety together. Each episode will explore practical strategies, share honest conversations, and uncover the science behind anxiety and well-being, all while creating a space where it's okay to not be okay. Let's continue this journey together. Hello, welcome back to Well, Hello, Anxiety. I'm Dr. Jodi Richardson, and I am so delighted and I feel quite honoured actually to be welcoming today's guest. I have followed her work and read her books, and I'm on her mailing list, and I just devoured anything that Emma sends my way and the way of people all over the world. She is creating an incredible change in the way that we think about happiness and we think about the way that we can live our lives. And her latest book is Sovereign, and I can't wait to talk to you about it. It shares insights on happiness and compassion and emotional well-being. Dr. Emma Seppälä is a global leader when it comes to bridging the gap between science and putting things into practice, which is what we really love from any of our incredible scientists. She talks about increasing your mental health and your well-being and accessing your full potential. Over the past 20 years, Dr. Seppälä has been researching, teaching and writing about the science of happiness at Yale and Stanford universities. She also consults with Fortune 500 companies, speaks at places like Google and Facebook, and has been featured in everything from Harvard Business Review to Oprah magazine. Oh, I'm such a fan of Oprah. When I was, a new mum, Dr. Seppälä, I had so many episodes of Oprah to watch. My kids are a bit older than yours. It was a huge part of my life growing up. She's also the best-selling author of The Happiness Track, and her latest book, Sovereign, Reclaim Your Freedom, Energy and Power in a Time of Distraction, Uncertainty and Chaos. And that is what we are diving into today. So, Dr. Seppälä, I'm so thankful for you and all your wonderful work. Thank you so much for joining me here on the podcast.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure, Jodi.
Oh, thank you. You share in the book so many of your own personal stories, and one that stuck with me and struck a chord with me was about your experience during 9/11, what you witnessed, how that affected you. Can you, and of course, what you did to really reclaim your sovereignty, although it may not have been the language you used at the time. Can you tell us about what happened and how you managed to look after yourself after such an extraordinary experience, that fateful day?
Yeah, so I was living in New York, which is already kind of an anxiety-provoking place. Everybody's on speed and everything's kind of crazy, chaotic and overstimulating. And then after 9/11, I would wake up in the morning and my body would just shake before leaving the apartment at 8:30 a.m. every day. And I didn't want to medicate, so I tried everything but, meaning I would just go to all the Bikram yoga classes, and I'd go to all the meditation courses, and I'd do all the things, but I was still anxious, and I didn't know, what I could do to help myself. And then I actually walked into a breathing class that I was kind of arrogant, I think, in the class. I was like, what is this? Like, why would this help me? It's called the Art of Living course. Is originally from India and through the yogic tradition and so forth. But I thought, breathing, really? And then I learned a practice called sky breath meditation. And I remember the instructor saying, practice this for 40 days, and then you'll see whether it works for you. And I thought, I'm a scientist. I was like, I'm going to practice it because I don't think this is going to do anything.
Yeah. And
I was probably the only one in my class who actually did practice it for 40 days. And now look, 20 something years later, I'm still practicing every day. It gave me back my sovereignty in that I was able to sleep again. I was able to move forward with my life successfully, cruise through tough situations like living in New York City post 9/11. It was almost, it was just wonderful. And I didn't give it much thought other than that, okay, that's great. Like this works for me. And then I just sort of moved on. And I did a PhD in psychology with the idea of like, can we do research on well-being practices that can help people gain inner peace? And I actually did my dissertation on meditation, on a type of meditation called loving kindness meditation. And then years later, I ended up working with veterans with post-traumatic stress and really had severe anxiety, and colleagues working with meditation with them. And they were all dropping out. And I said, yeah, of course, these veterans are going to drop out, because when you're really anxious and you're trying to sit and meditate, it's like the worst thing ever. You're just super aware that you're anxious, and it's just not a fun feeling. Of course, they're dropping out, and not that meditation might not work, for some people who are anxious, but certainly when there's a lot of trauma, it can be a challenge to sit still and be with that feeling. And so I thought, well, let's just try the breathing, that I had learned for the veterans. So we ran a couple of studies since then, and found that after just 1 week of learning the techniques, these veterans no longer qualified as having post-traumatic stress. Their anxiety normalized, and it was maintained a month and a year later. So there is a way, at least this breathing technique the sky breath meditation seems to have an impact on the nervous system that helps you recalibrate to greater normalcy, to coming back to yourself, to bringing balance to the nervous system. And so in that sense, it's reclaiming your sovereignty. That's one of the aspects I talk about in the book. Yes,
and I want to come to sovereignty in a moment, but I want to thank you. In the book, you share so many stories, and of course, I always notice myself, and I'm sure you do too, and listeners to the podcast, that the moment an author starts sharing a story, something about our attention just elevates. We just really lock in, and we find ways that we relate to it ourselves. And when you obviously witnessed the second plane crashing into the Twin Towers in 9/11, and it left you obviously like absolutely reeling, and the anxiety that you experienced as a result of that was profound. And the breathing technique, I love that, you as a scientist, you're curious, and you tried hot yoga, and you tried different meditations, and that you found the breathing technique was the one thing that made such a difference for you. But the personal stories that you've shared, I just really want to take a moment just to say a huge thank you for that, because you shared vulnerably about a lot of your own experiences. And I know that that's not easy to do when you're writing, and then you're putting it out into the world for people to read. Those experiences that you shared about yourself and other people in the book are just profound and really helped me as a reader, and other readers, no doubt, to think these people have been through some significant traumas, these challenges that are it's hard to imagine how people can get through some of the things that you wrote about, and yet they not only got through it, but have managed to reclaim their sovereignty and find ways to thrive and be true to themselves and go on to do incredible things. Gosh, a lot of, and you shared stories of a lot of profound experiences. I want to also share with listeners that it's not a breathing technique that we're going to describe here on the podcast. It's something that you need to go and learn. And here in Australia, and I've got listeners around the world, the Art of Living Foundation is the place to go. You can just go straight to their website and find a course, and even do their free introductory online course, which I've done. And then I recently did the Introduction to Sky Breathing, which was a 3-day course not far from home. I guess people hear a lot about breathing, and when I started recording with Emma today, I feel anxious. It's probably a combination of a few things. I had an early start because we've got a big time difference between us. Also, I've had a very early morning coffee, which listeners will know that coffee it's obviously a stimulant, can make me a little bit more anxious, but also my anxiety gets bigger the more I care about what I'm doing, which is natural. And Emma taught me through a beautiful breathing. Emma actually talked me through a breathing technique just to sort of help me settle before our recording. But sky breathing's different. What can you tell listeners about sky breathing? Because some people might say, I've learned breathing techniques.
It's hard to put into words. And so, I could talk about it scientifically. And then scientifically, we do see that it reduces anxiety, that it reduces trauma, that a lot of the veterans, that we had in our studies, they were living in their basement, bunkered up, drinking and smoking weed just to try and make it through the day. Their relationships were crashing. They weren't able to keep a job. School was hard for them if they were in school. So, and what we found was that after they went through this practice, they were able to move on with their life. And in fact, there's a documentary called Free the Mind that you can watch on YouTube that follows our study, and you can see the veterans before and after. And, it's amazing. And many of them were, said things to me like, thank you for giving me my life back. And they just moved on like nothing had happened. I mean, it's really extraordinary. So those are some of the findings. And then in terms of the experience of it, subjectively, it does come from a very ancient tradition, tens of thousands of years old in India. And they had a knowledge and a science of things that we are still learning about, that we're still in our infancy stages here about. And I think the practice was brought about through Art of Living, the sort of the yoga master that the guru of the tradition, his name is Gurudev Sri Sri Ravi Shankar. He has been teaching this for 45 years. And I just knew for my own self, like this works great for me. But then through the science, I saw, wow, works for people who might never go to a yoga class. Like the veterans were like, they're like, what's this hippy dippy stuff, But then they were like, okay, like I get it, and I just think I just wish everyone had access to this. I mean, imagine if all high school students or all middle school students were able to learn these practices and then move on without childhood trauma to dictate how the rest of their life goes. For example, like my 10-year-old does his little practice with me every morning, because they have kids programs too. And I love that. I'm like, wow, I keep telling him, do you know how lucky you are that you're learning this at 10 years old? And, the way that he gets it, he's like, that feels so good after. And he's like, I want to do my meditation so that I'm not so mad at that boy at school. And I tell him like, yeah, the meditation makes your inside stronger than the outside is. And that's what sovereignty is. What's sovereignty? Making your inside stronger than the outside so you can surf life as opposed to being drowning in it,
Oh, the idea of everyone having a practice like this is it would change the world, because it changes the way that we can show up for ourselves. It changes the way that we can show up for other people, and that we can respond to these challenges. And for your 10-year-old to be practicing with you, and it's just such a reminder, isn't it, that as parents, our children are learning so much from just the way we function and operate day to day. And you've helped me. I've got a period of time coming up in my life where I really need to hold in my own strength and sovereignty. And I'm happy to share. My listeners know I'm very open. My gorgeous mum is about to do another Camino walk, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Camino.
Yeah, of course.
You are, yes. And so she's mature. I won't say her age. It's not my place to say, but she's in her 70s, and she's about to do I think it's about a 600-kilometre walk over about 4 weeks. And my responsibility while she's away will be to really look after my dad. And they're about half an hour away from me. And of course, I have 2 children and my own business and my husband and my life, my exercise and my kids' activities, but also helping look after dad while mum's away. I've done it before and it's not easy. Reading your book and listening to your podcast and just developing and working on this within myself is helping me to remember what's really important and the strength that I will need to juggle everything, because I know last time I did this, I didn't cope very well for lots of reasons, and dad was hospitalised twice while mum was away. And so I'm approaching what I know will be a challenging sort of period of my life for the month coming up, starting very soon, from a very different and more grounded perspective, with the knowledge that I'm capable, much more capable than I probably give myself credit for. And I think we often don't give ourselves enough credit. Can you speak to this idea that we've got this light in us, this strength, and that the world around us can challenge that and sort of make us feel a little bit less able to cope, but that we have more within us than we might give ourselves credit for? Can you speak to that idea that you wrote about in the book?
Yeah, we have so much potential. I mean, the situation you have coming up. Obviously, if you bring on a huge other responsibility and you've got a lot of responsibility, something's got to give, Maybe your business takes a back burner for a couple of weeks because your children probably won't be something you want to put on the back burner. No. Maybe your husband goes on the back burner for a couple of weeks.
Yes.
Or whoever, But I know, and that, having taught many, groups of executives, which is what I do at the Yale School of Management, is that most people are running around with so much self-loathing. Whenever I ask people, how many of you are self-critical, 90% of the room, 95% of the room sometimes raises their hand. And I'm going to differentiate between self-criticism, which is when you're really putting yourself down and speaking unkindly to yourself, which most people do. If you think about the last time, you made a mistake, someone made a mistake, usually that they say pretty harsh things to themselves. And self-awareness is simply like you're having right now. You're like, okay, these next 6 weeks, or I better, get real about the fact that might be challenging. But that's self-awareness, as opposed to self-criticism being like, I can't handle it. I can't do this. I'm worth nothing. I'm never, all those lies. And it's so interesting to me because whenever I do ask people, how many of you are self-critical, there's always like one person or maybe two max that don't raise their hand. And they inevitably show up as the most powerful people in the room. Not powerful because they have some kind of position.
Yes.
But they have this inner sovereignty because they live their life having their own back. And the rest of people, they buying into these lies or programs, I call it, where you are beating yourself up. And if you think about it, it doesn't make sense. Like, you would never talk to your child this way. You would never treat your best friend this way. Like, why would you treat yourself like that? And I think sovereignty starts with awareness and questioning, like, wait a second, is this serving me? And, some people might wonder, well, like, where does this come from? Like, why is it that 90% of people are so harsh with themselves? They're so unkind. There's so much self-loathing. Why? And we don't know why. Maybe it stems back from when we were serfs to the kings and queens, and, it behooved them to make sure that we had self-loathing, but it's certainly embedded in our society, in our communities, in our families, something that gets passed down. And it's not serving us. So sovereignty is becoming aware of the programs that are running our life and our mind and keeping us from accessing our fullest potential, Like you're like, okay, you know what? I'm actually capable. Over the next 6 weeks, it's going to go great. Like, maybe I won't be able to handle all the things on my plate because this is a big thing I'm adding, but I am so capable of this. And I'm even going to find some joy in it.
The idea that I might find some joy in it had only just recently occurred to me, and it was through listening to one of your podcast episodes. It's just one example in my experience. Learning from what you've shared and written about, and what you've written about particularly in the book, has changed my awareness and changed my perspective, and I feel as though I'm going to come into this big challenge stronger. One of the things that I want to touch on before we move forward is this, what you shared earlier about your dissertation on loving kindness meditation, and how you do work with executives who have very responsible roles in large companies, probably the world over, and how it is that you introduce them to the idea of being a bit kinder to themselves and treating themselves more like a friend, and how that's received, because some people can feel as though, oh, maybe if I'm hard on myself, I'll get more out of myself. I'll be more likely to get the things done I need to do and operate at a higher level. But the opposite is really true. How do you introduce it, and how quickly do they come around to the idea that being kinder to themselves is so powerful?
Well, I introduce it like I just talked about, and I show the science. The science shows that self-criticism leads to anxiety, depression, fear of failure, less willingness to try again, which is the opposite of resilience. And it leads to stress because you activate your sympathetic nervous system. Like, if someone comes in right now and starts insulting you, your stress is going to be activated.
Yes.
If you're doing that to yourself, you're walking around with that high level of stress, that inner terrorist. Like, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And the science shows that when you have more of a self, a life supportive relationship with yourself, like a kinder relationship with yourself, you have better mental health, better physical health, you have better relationships. Because when you have a kinder relationship with yourself, you're also more likely to have a kind relationship with others. When you have a harsh relationship with yourself, you're more likely to be harsh with the people you love the most and want to hurt the least. I mean, this is classic, And it's interesting. It's an old paradigm. It's an old model, this self-criticism thing and the harsh relationship with yourself. Just like harsh workplaces are an old paradigm. Do they still exist? Yeah, they still exist. they're not the future. They don't do as well as the other workplaces where people are happier. And just like your relationships are going to be better when you have a better relationship with yourself. It's so interesting that we live in these false paradigms that are destructive to ourselves, to our relationships, even to our workplaces. Like, you've got to wonder, wherever this came from, it's time that it ends.
Yeah, it really is. And I do see so much hope in the work that I do. I interviewed Dr. Kristen Neff, and she shared that even on the sports field, self-compassion, a self-compassionate approach to mistakes leads to a better outcome for the rest of your performance, for the game that you're playing. It's just the applications are far and wide, aren't they?
Yeah. Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Yes. With anxiety and the veterans that you worked with and the PTSD that they were struggling with and the change that you brought for them, can you tell us a little bit more about the effects of the breathing, the sky breathing meditation that they learned, continued to have a positive impact on their life, even if they didn't continue to practice daily? Like you have practiced for so many years, every day, you don't miss a day. For some of them, they practiced for a period of months, I believe. I might be wrong. Please correct me. And then may not have continued the practice, but the effects lasted, didn't they?
Yeah, many of them didn't continue past the 1 week or they learned the class.
1 week.
But it had an effect still 1 year later. Their anxiety was still normalized. So I think just practicing the sky breath meditation in the class itself, it's like it recalibrates your nervous system to normalcy, So for trauma. But those who continued, like my husband, actually, he is a veteran and he practices every day. And, I think that it's like going to the gym. When you go to the gym and you work out every day, you're going to be strong every day. And if you condition your nervous system every single day with the breathing and meditation, you're strengthening and strengthening and strengthening your nervous system. Not that you can't get upset or stressed or whatever. Of course, we all do. But you bounce back much faster. And it's like you have every day those moments of total resilience, those moments of complete peace, of, unplugging from the world, plugging into yourself, adjusting your nervous system. So it's calibrated for the day, for the best possible outcomes, So for me, it's like a non-negotiable. I do the breathing practice and then I do meditation in the morning. Plus I do a little yoga before that. And then in the evening I meditate again. And some people are like, well, that sounds great. You probably have all the time in the world. I'm busy. It's like, well, no, my kids get up at 5:30, but I fit it in. And then I fit it in when the village has gone to sleep, my second practice. But the point being that, how much time do people waste every day? A lot of time, hours sometimes, scrolling or doing something that doesn't really nourish you. And so for me, it's like, okay, I spend about an hour and 20 minutes or an hour and 30 minutes, if I include the yoga and whatever, per day. And that's an hour and 30 minutes. I'm not doing something else, but I've sacrificed, I don't watch shows and you know what? I don't care. That's fine with me. I'm missing out on scrolling through more news articles. Well, no, thanks. I'm okay. I don't need more of that. What I've noticed is the return on investment is so huge,
It really is. The curiosity of a scientist, if we can adopt that with anything that we're introduced to, a listener might be thinking, I really want to sort of learn more about this. I'd like to understand more about this and go and learn the breathing technique. And it's really like with anything that we can be curious about it. Try it for a week, try it for a month, try it for the 40 days as you were instructed to. And just see what happens. Just see what happens without expectation, without too much pressure, without an idea in your mind that, I'm going to be doing this every day for the rest of my life. Just that curiosity, I think, can just take so much pressure off, can't it?
Yeah. I always recommend do 40 days. You could be sitting on a gold mine. What are you going to do? Not dig? Or just dig for 40 days? Dig for 40 days. What's the big deal? You could do anything for 40 days.
Yes.
And that's what I did. I was like, this is not going to work for me. I was very skeptical, bordering cynical. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to do this. And it's not going to do anything for me, just like anything else. And then it did. And I was like, okay, well, great. Now I have a tool in my toolkit that's invaluable to me.
Emma, you have already shared so much. And I can't wait to come back again next week with part 2 of this conversation, where we actually open the conversation talking about one of your friends, one of your incredible friends, and how she found herself taken hostage by a couple of people who were actually sent. There was a hit on your friend and they were sent to actually do away with her, and how she managed to turn things around in the most profound way, such that they then became her protectors. I cannot wait to jump back in next week. Thanks again for your time. Thank you for sharing this time with me on Well, Hello Anxiety. Remember, understanding anxiety is the first step to managing it. Until next time, be gentle with yourself. Take things one moment at a time. Focus on what you can control and know that you are not alone on this journey. If you found value in today's episode, please share it with someone who might need to hear it too. I'm Dr. Jodi Richardson, and I'll meet you right back here next week.